Hello Hot Wheels collectors and customizers. Today we're going to do the 65 Ford Galaxie. A preface, I've had a couple of requests by Ricardo Maldonado asking how do I remove these flames. And then coincidentally, Twice Diecast channel, he just did a 30-minute Hot Wheels mod. It looked pretty sweet, nice wheels, and he stripped off the flames with using dry erase markers. Now, every chemical is going to be different. Maybe the dry erase markers I used just weren't good. But I used that method on this Impala here. It had a bunch of flames. This is one of those old Revell lowriders. And you can see I had to use so much friction that it not only removed the flames, but it actually removed the green paint on these edges where I was just rubbing back and forth. So, and yet I still didn't get all the yellow out. See, the yellow flame is in there, but literally I can see the raw casting there. So for me, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth to use the dry erase markers. So I'm going to show a different method, but let's first talk about this car and measure it, figure out the scale of this guy. So this is a 1965 Ford Galaxie. And I'm reading here off Wikipedia. The Galaxie ranged from 1959 to 1974. This would be a third generation, which was produced between 1964 and 1968, but the first model year was a 1965. It was an all-new design, and notably it had vertically stacked dual headlights, or basically headlights that looked like a quad thing, like this photo you'll see in a second. Very Star Trek-like. It was taller and bulkier than previous versions. It could be a 3.9 liter inline 6 or up to a 7 liter V8, making 350 or 360 horsepower. 360 horsepower if you're a police officer. Okay, so actually before I forget, this thing is a 119-inch wheelbase, which times 25.4, that would be 3,022 millimeters, 3022 millimeters, or we'll round it up. So the question is, if I take this measurement, middle of the axle to middle of the axle, and punch it into that number, we'll figure out the scale. Unless I've been doing things way wrong all this time. Alright, that's about in the middle, 46.32. Computing. 165 scale is what I'm getting, but there could be some axle play. It's not that far off, you know. I think it'll fit in with most people's collections and not look ridiculous. Okay, so that's done. Let's look at, you know, maybe we should compare after the flames are removed, right? Yeah, I think that would make sense. Okay, so I only discovered this, you know, through watching some other YouTube channel. Someone else tried adhesive remover, or maybe I read it in a forum or something. So I use a 3M Scotch branded adhesive remover, but I bought this here locally, and so I'm not sure if you're in North America or Europe if it's the same formulation, but 3M being a multinational company, maybe it is the same formulation. Okay, this is an aerosol spray can, so you don't want to do what I'm going to do. You don't want to use this in a confined space. You should probably wear safety glasses if you're going to spray this around. And if you're going to be fondling the car, you should probably wear gloves. I'm pretty sure adhesive remover is not good to absorb into your skin. So I use nitrile gloves because I have a 3D printer. And nitrile gloves are much better at blocking chemicals than latex gloves. Latex gloves are pretty much worthless when it comes to blocking alcohol or other chemicals. So here we got a fancy nitrile, Michael Jackson style. Alright, so I'm using Q-tips here. So we're going to see how quickly this can remove. So I just actually take the Q-tip, press it against the nozzle here, and then I squeeze a little bit, and so that liquid, now you can just see it just watered up this Q-tip. So another thing is, this thing will totally destroy the Hot Wheels plastic. Anyways, I'm going to just rub it on the side. That's not nowhere near the windshield for now. So that's just one coat there. I'm going to hit it. Oh, it already started pulling off paint. But I'm going to hit it up with some more fluid. Hit the other side. And so that'll give a little bit of time for this to start you know, penetrating the flames here. You can see it's quite glossy, you know, because it's wet with this adhesive remover. Alright. So now I'm going to go back to the other side and see if we can start stripping these flames off. Do keep in mind the premium Hot Wheels, I think the graphics are underneath the clear coat, so they don't want to come off. Okay, so you can start seeing this does actually remove the flames relatively quick. I'm very lucky there are no flames on the top. If there are flames on the top and the trunk and all that stuff, it would behoove you to take some masking tape and try to hide, you know, protect that window, because this will definitely ruin the window. And if it does, then you got to go back and you got to polish it out with, like, Tamiya extra fine rubbing compound. So you can see it's definitely working, but the more fluid you have, I think the faster it's going to work. So I'm going to use the other side of the Q-tip and douse it again with more of this fluid. Oh boy, that literally dripped. So unfortunately that's now being absorbed by my finger and probably giving me cancer. So you should probably wear gloves in both cases of your hands, that is. Okay, I'm going to hit the other side again with this fluid. Get another layer on there. What I don't know is if this is going to strip the chrome. So I'm going to put some right here on the bottom. You see it's nice and wet, and we'll see if it strips the chrome off. I'll do it on both sides. Okay, coming back to this flame and number thing here. Alright, now you can see it's getting through that number pretty fast. So it probably took about 5 minutes or to really start penetrating the graphics. So naturally, you're going to need a lot of Q-tips. Maybe like 10 Q-tips to get through all this stuff. Because eventually, you know, the thing just gets so cluttered up with paint, you end up just rubbing paint onto itself. But this is so wet here. Let me just get a little more of this fluid out on this paint here before I bring a clean Q-tip in. Yeah, that is definitely still a lot of chemical there. Alright, let's bring a new Q-tip. Yeah, it's definitely doing its job. Starting to rip through. So again, but it feels a little dry, so I'm going to add even more fluid to the Q-tip again. You can feel the resistance of the dry paint. I'd be impressed if you guys were going to watch this without actually fast forwarding. Let's just try to get at least this side finished so we can compare it to the photographs. So I can hear that squeaking quite a bit, so I'm going to get some more adhesive remover here. I suppose you could use a rag, but I'm afraid if you used a rag, you would get a lot of it onto the windows, or possibly, I mean, this chrome piece of plastic might be affected by this. Let's rub that bottom area again, even add more. So far I don't think it's affecting the chrome. It's getting squeaky again. So that was Q-tip number 2. I'm going to go Q-tip number 3 with some more fluid. I think it's doused with fluid. If you go in different directions, rubbing, you know, up, down, left, right, swirly, that might help, you know, get the cotton threads to break up the graphic faster. Although I have not scientifically tested that, it would make sense if that was the way. Almost done, guys. Almost done. Alright, now I think I'm just spreading paint around, so I'm going to do the other side. So it seems I got like six swabs worth here of you know, cotton buds to get all this graphic off. I'm thinking it doesn't affect the chrome because I'm just rubbing right up against the chrome up here. Okay, this model doesn't cost a lot, so I'm willing to sacrifice it if I'm willing to totally destroy it if I need to. Okay, the front section is pretty much done. Alright, there we go. So the door panels, yeah, that's recessed, so you gotta really jam this thing in there. Or, I have some really small Q-tip sort of things. I got these guys off of AliExpress. Hold on a sec, let me get it. They're like, I think they're labeled as eyelash cotton buds. So it's like a toothpick with a tiny bit of cotton on there. So hold on. Put a little fluid on this guy. So now, you know, being a finer tip, I can get it into the door crevice there, and it definitely worked. And also this crevice here of this rear fender. Yeah, you see it got right in there where the Q-tip was just a little bit too big, or it wasn't creating enough pressure being such a larger surface area. Alright, so there we go. I would guess that took about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to rub the chrome down here again because I don't think this 3M stuff affects chrome. Clearly, I'm rubbing pretty hard there, and it's had plenty of time to penetrate. So, well, what's going on there? Is that some haziness there? Alright, so it is a little hazy, but I am rubbing pretty hard. But over here, still hasn't penetrated. So anyways, it's obviously not maybe a good idea to purposely grind this into the chrome if you don't want to strip off the chrome. But essentially it seems to have left this section here pretty clean, that chrome, because I wasn't pressing too hard into it. Alright, let me move the glove here. Alright, so now well, unfortunately, this front end is very, very chromed, so I'm going to definitely have to add some black paint to this guy. But I think the shape is there. The angularity of the front headlights, although the front headlights don't have two round, you know, lenses in there. I don't know why they didn't mold in two circles like for the headlights. That's kind of weird. They could have easily done that. Alright, side view, proportion wise, I would say that's pretty much spot on proportion wise. Possibly the no, I was thinking maybe the tail could be a little bit longer, but I think that's an illusion because this bottom chrome strip makes the thing look shorter height wise, so that's what makes it look longer. Okay, you'll notice there's no B pillar. Oh, this is a sedan I pulled up. My bad. I was just looking at the rear lights. But yeah, you got the little like cross pattern in these taillights here, and it looks like a bump for the hood grab. This one actually has like racing. Hold on, let me get the toothpick here. This one has like racing, supports. So if this had gone into a crash, I'm gonna guess it's gonna keep the glass from falling all over a racetrack. So this is definitely not a standard Ford Galaxie because it also has side pipes. Right. So Hot Wheels took their liberties on this one. 2019, not a very old casting. Mostly the fuel fillers on that side, and again, that would be flush on a real production car. So this is for speed refills on a racing track. I'm going to guess these bumps are supposed to be, quick release latches for the hood and trunk. And then they seem to have some bumps here, maybe like to mimic some sort of supports or, reinforcement to keep the windshield, in place if it got into an accident. So the interior is silver metallic plastic, but it obviously looks a bit green from the windows. And it's pretty interesting, the green wheels that they used to match it. This thing actually reminds me of like the Green Hornet car, but yeah, the only thing really lacking, I think, are just two circles in these headlights. Unless they're thinking about making this a premium, and then they would have a printed section there. But even that, still, Hot Wheels premiums can print on a dome surface. So that's weird that they would skip that when it would be so easy to put them in there. Okay, so I think it's got a rake to it, right? To get the headlights, to get the exhaust pipes to clear. So let me get the comparison tray. Yeah, this thing's raked a little bit, but it doesn't have the oversized rear wheels. The front and rear wheels are the same diameter. So, alright. Now, speaking of wheels, I have a whole grab bag of Hot Wheels or Majorette wheels I found online. So I went and repainted a bunch of them. These are like the Real Riders from JDM cars. I have no clue what these are from. But you'll recognize some of these as mostly Hot Wheels. But I also threw in some old wheels. This is like a Tarmac Works wheel set, I think. So I'm going to just pick through my little grab bag here and come back in a second. I don't really love this car enough to warrant me designing my own 3D wheels and using up my valuable resin to do that. So we'll see. Dang it, guys. Now this has just become a full-on tutorial. I figure I might as well just show how I go about adding the details. It's pretty common sense though. I'm going to use a liquid chrome pen in the headlights and see if I can draw some circles, and if I fail, I will... No, there's no way I'm going to draw circles because there's actually a break in the surface here. Let's try it anyways. Well, actually that is a circle. Hold on, let me hit the focus button again. So, this is the smallest tip. I think it's a 1mm wide tip on this pen here. So I actually place my fingers against something, and so that allows you to have a little more control drawing a circle. Okay. Yeah, those aren't the best circles. So, alright, so those that's a lame attempt of circles, and if you're not happy with it, whatever. I'm just gonna fill it all in, and because the thing has a lip on it, that's fine too. Alright, so at least we have a different color. Maybe not the best circles, but whatever. You could also, you know, use some of this for hood pins. There's some sort of center badge of some sort there. Yeah, you know, this doesn't even have door handles. Interesting. I did wipe the whole car down with a towel after, because I don't want the residue to ever touch those windows. And also, just to let you know, this side, because I didn't mess with it while I was rubbing off this side, the Scotch, the adhesive remover penetrated those flames more. So I only needed one Q-tip to get all that off. You know, so in the future, it might make sense to just apply a bunch of the adhesive remover and wait 10 minutes, let it penetrate, and then you won't have to go through as many Q-tips. And you won't run the risk of abrading, you know, rubbing off the corners and exposing the metal like I did on my Gravel. Alright, so the taillights and the grill, they're going to need some color here. So I just use these Vallejo paints because they're acrylic water-based, meaning you can actually thin them down with just tap water. And then these brushes, you know, cheap 10 brushes for like $1 off AliExpress. And you can actually apply this relatively sloppy because I'm going to clean it up with one of those fine pointed Q-tips. So it takes like 2 or 3 efforts to get enough black in there, because you'll see it doesn't even want to stick to that chrome plastic. I guess you could actually clean that with alcohol, but I didn't bother to do that. I just let it dry. So we'll come back to that one. I should clean that brush off before it hardens. And then there's 2 different paints. There's a clear transparent red, which I actually don't like to use, but I'm going to show you anyways on one side of the taillights, in case you haven't ever bought any paints from this brand. And I'm going to use one of these little, I'll show you these Q-tips. These are a plastic one with a really fine felt tip, but I find that I don't really use them all too often. Okay, so there's the transparent red. We'll see how that ends up when it dries. There's a different size plastic one with a much bigger, like, felt head. So we'll bust out this red, shake up the pigment with the water, and you don't even need to put it on anything if it's such a small amount. Just dab this thing right on the tip. That was pretty sloppy. Ideally, if you want to save time, you don't want to be as sloppy and careless as me. I'm usually a little bit more attentive, but I'm doing this through a phone camera. So we gotta let that dry a little bit, and it's really worthwhile to invest in these because this is what's going to clean up all that messy paint. You can't really do it with a Q-tip because the tip is too large. I'm going to come back with more black here in the grill. I opened my window because that adhesive remover smells like a nice orange, but I am not fooled in the fact that it's giving me brain damage. So there's some birds and stuff outside the window. I'm going to put a silver in that gas tank. So again, I'm kind of holding this finger to not allow my hand to go all over the place. If you don't brace your hand against something, you're just going to like go everywhere. You know, I'll do it here. You know, if I just draw like this, that's pretty hard, right? But if you brace your finger against something, for me, you just get more control instead of trying to do that, because your blood pressure is literally vibrating your hand. while this paint is drying, I guess I'll take the wheels off. I have these 5 spokes. I don't know if these are Hot Wheels or Matchbox branded, and I painted them gold, and then I have the Real Rider red stripes. They're only red on one side, and I'm gonna mount those in with putty because I don't like rolling models. They just roll off my tape shelves and stuff like that. Okay, so I've mentioned these before. You want to invest in some nice clippers. These are some German branded clippers, Knipex or Knipex, and this is the part number here, 7612-125, and it's small enough to get into most wheel wells of Hot Wheels, just to get the axle clipped off. You can use bigger cutters, but it might be hard to actually get the tip around the axle. This could easily cut through a hardened steel axle of Hot Wheels diameter, which is 0.7 millimeters. I think it's rated for like 1.1 millimeter steel. So I'm doing this is one method, the longer way. If you want to preserve, well, I like to preserve my axles because I use them for 3D printed wheel projects. So now you want to wear safety glasses and you snip that off. And you usually want to hold the other side because that other side goes out like a rocket, as you saw. So that's the way to preserve most of the axle if you want to reuse it for something else. But very often you just have enough, if you don't care about the wheels, you can just jam this right in here. And let's see if we can get that. Yep. So that's the fast way, but you can't reuse the axle because it just cut the majority of it in half. Alright, so anyways, just thought I'd show you those 2 ways there. Let's see. Paint still looks a little wet. Maybe on the back is dry. Alright, maybe it is. So now, because this is a hard piece of wood with a little bit of cotton on it, I can basically scrape off the edges where I have the extra paint. Like even look at this messiness down on the bumper, right? But because the tip is so fine, there. But if I used a real Q-tip, there's just no way I could do that because it'll literally, where is it? It's just gonna scrape off everything, right? Well, here's another one I purchased. This is a plastic thing with a foam tip. But I find that the foam is a bit too soft, so I almost never use these. But as you see here, if you're going around the edges, I guess you can use it, but I don't know, I prefer the hard wooden stick more than this flexible plastic stick. So that's the outer edges. I might as well do this side while we're over here. And so also I'll try to use this foam one for the bumper here, but I don't know. Well, you know what, it does work, but I can feel the plastic beneath that foam flexing, so I don't like it. The wood doesn't really flex so much, big wood. Okay, so I got that extra red off. I'm gonna get this edge clean. This edge clean. Alright, so now the center sections. Those actually are supposed to be chrome, so I'm just using the longer part, not the tip, because I don't want the tip to get into those recesses. See? Oh, I'm sorry, keep losing focus. There we go. So let's do it on this side again. I'm going to flip it over because I'm right-handed. So I'm just going to use the longer part. And so it can't get into the recesses where the red paint is. So that's how I bring back the chrome. I apply the paint kind of sloppy and I just clean it up. I actually I don't think I put enough red or I took too much off, so I might have to do that again. But you can see, this is the regular red. The regular, well, literally red. But the right side is this transparent red. But for me, it looks too dark. For me it looks almost like a maroon. or there's like a little bit of purple or something. I don't know. It just doesn't look like a red of a taillight to me. I'm not sure what your camera screen is going to show, of course, but for me, I prefer just a non-transparent red for taillights. Okay, so the front end, I think that's dry now. It's no longer shiny. So again, if I just use the longer part and not the tip, it should just pull the paint off the ridges. And if not, you're just going to have to go back in with another set of paint. I'm lightly scraping this because I think if I scrape too much, the cotton's going to get into those, into the recesses. So here, so the recesses still seem to be retaining the black paint I put in there. This one's a little worn out. If it gets too frayed, those frays are going to get into the grooves and possibly rip out the paint in the grooves. So I'll just get a new one here. Also, I just wet the thing to mat down the fibers, so I find that if you wet the thing, it might be helpful as well. Just have a little glass of water, or even use your spit, which is kind of gross, but if it's your model, maybe it's not so gross. Yeah, I think having a moist Q-tip here helps paint come off easier. Okay, so with a little more time I could clean that up even better, but you get the idea. There actually is black inside those grill vents now, whereas the leading edges are chromed. Okay, so it's time for the wheels. Let's get this paint out of here. Get some of my little display base. I use this putty here called Potafix Pro. It's meant to put poster boards onto walls without leaving any marks. Mary took it out of the package, and I think it's just like a plastic-based putty that never hardens, and it doesn't leave a stain or anything like that. So you can reuse it again and again, and it's just so much easier than trying to use axles, for me at least. And also, you can make the wheels steer. So I'll just take this, put on the back of this thing, and let's hope that this is actually wide enough. The wheel well is wide enough. Yeah, it'll work. I may have put a little too much putty in there, but I'm going to sink it up in that fender. I'm going to reduce the putty there on the second one and get it put in there easier. You can actually, I don't even know why I put it on the back of the wheel. I could just actually put it up here on the wheel well and just jam the tire right into it. So you'll never see it from the side. Right, so that works. Alright, let's try the front. Now it looks like there's a bigger gap there, so I might actually need some more putty, or see, it's also recessed quite a bit, just laying like that. This one I am going to put on the back of the wheel because we know I'm going to steer it. So let's put it in like that. Just put it in this direction. So nice and easy. And because this is a dark gray putty, it's kind of hard to see from the front, especially when it's laying on the surface. It's could use a yellow or white or blue putty, those other brands, but actually the darker it is, I think the more realistic, or less chance of seeing some weird color underneath the model. Alright, so hold on here. Okay. Sorry, I can't lose my focus. So there we have a steering Hot Wheels now, with a little bit of paint accents with mismatched taillights. And I seem to have some trace paint there on my fingertip here. Alright, so, well, let me just get one of these Q-tip things again. Because this is the actual paint marker, I'm going to actually use some of this adhesive remover. The water-based Vallejos, I never seem to have to use alcohol or adhesive remover. It just comes off the slick surface. But the Molotow pen, it actually, I think, has a chemical bond to the paint, so that's why I just use this adhesive remover. And then you should probably wipe it off with a rag. Because if you don't, it's going to get into your fingers, and then it's going to get on the windows, and then the windows will get all cloudy and messed up. Okay, so that is a random, spontaneous modification video. So hopefully you learned something about the way I do it. There's probably, many better ways to do it than I did, like David did, and other people do their wheel swaps and stuff. But this is just what I've come to appreciate as far as speed goes. For me, it seems to be pretty efficient, and I really like the putty here. Maybe a little too much there, but just rip some of these out. I like to bruise my car steering. Alright, with that said, let's get this coaster thing. Bring this camera down a little bit. So, there we have the Ford Galaxie, the 3rd generation, with some sort of unknown wheels. Maybe they're Hot Wheels, I don't know. And the flame tampo removal. So, appreciate you guys watching.